Hello, it is another Tuesday, which of course means it's time for another in real life video. And this week we are once again returning to the wellspring of ranking stupid things. Indeed, as per usual, you can submit a request for your own ranking video similar to this one. You can also submit a question that you may have for other IRL videos that are not ranking videos and the like. You can do all of that in the comments below if you would like, and it helps me a whole lot if you include a question mark in either the question or even the request, because it helps me sort it automatically. YouTube has like a questions filter. Anyway, this week's ranking video is sort of a continuation of one that we have done already. We did this for Morrowind, in which we ranked all of the non-unique creatures in Morrowind. We're now going to do that in Oblivion. However, I figured, you know, since we're mostly ranking them on the merits of it being like visual and, you know, the creature sort of being an iconic creature or not, right, being very memorable or whatever to the Oblivion playing experience, I figured we should also include Oblivion Remastered. So it took me actually quite a bit of time to put together this little tier list, but regardless, we have it. It's ready to go. I can't imagine it takes nearly as long to get through it as it did to make it, because there's a lot of commonalities, right? We'll be both ranking the remastered versions of creatures and the original versions of creatures against one another, but also we'll just be ranking them in totality, right? Anyway, without further ado, we'll do a little cut here as we go into picture-in-picture mode. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Looks good to me. Now, as we sort of mentioned with all of these, let's just get out of the way some clerical information. It is no coincidence that these little icons and stuff that I've put together that resembles a lot of the workings of the fantastic unofficial Elder Scrolls Pages.net, UESP.net, one of my favorite resources for all things Elder Scrolls. This is not sponsored, I just like them a lot. We've also taken, because it was actually quite a pain in the butt to get pictures of the new versions, right? The remastered versions of things, understandably, I suppose. I also nabbed a bunch from, I believe some of these are from the IGN bestiary for Oblivion Remastered, because they actually had a whole bunch of pictures of these creatures from the remaster. Some were from the fandom Elder Scrolls wiki. Some were also just from like assorted, I don't know, Google image searches. So if you see your image here, and you're like, hey, that looks a lot like a screenshot I took and used and like posted on, I don't know, Reddit or used for a thumbnail, it probably is. Thank you. Right? Anyway, let us begin from the top. Let's begin with Bear 06 and 25. Let's see. Now, also, similar to times in past, I've got here as well to where we can bring up both of these suckers in such a way. Hang on. Let's see here. There we go. All right. So, Bear 06 and Bear 25. What better way, I think, to illustrate one of, in my opinion, the greater shortcomings of Oblivion Remastered, in particular within the realm of, like, aesthetics and the, like, visual upgrade and increase of fidelity, and just the Unreal Engine 5ification of Oblivion. I think there's no better example than Bear, right? Which, you know, we're sort of lumping in together, not just the brown bears, but also the black bears. This will be the case with a lot of variants. We're not going to have like every single version of skeleton or every single version of zombie. There are variants of them, but they're similar enough to where we're just kind of lumping them together for the sake of brevity, right? They're decently similar. Nonetheless, here, I've opened up as well the little image here with GIMP, and you can kind of see the issue with the Oblivion remaster bear over the original. Sure, the original bear looks like a complete dingus, right? But considering what they were working with, you know, we didn't have like stuff like Tress FX was something that we didn't even think of. It was a twinkle in someone's eye still. So there were a lot of these flatter textures on creatures that were supposed to be kind of furry and whatnot, right? Like bear, right? Like the brown bear. You can sort of, with using your imagination, get the idea of like, oh yeah, this is fur. It's maybe a little bit more matted. It's not super fluffed up. But the problem with Oblivion Remastered is it sort of takes this, it goes very wild when it comes to fur and hair in particular. And it only looks worse the worse of a system you're playing the game on, right? The less graphical fidelity. It's like we had said, it's really like bringing forward some of the worst aspects of UE5, I feel. That being like the bear around the perimeter here, it just looks like a big pube monster. From afar, the bears in Oblivion Remastered look a lot better, but the closer up you get to them and the more you like inspect the finer details and like the ways in which their fur kind of like aligns onto their body, and more importantly on the perimeter, right, the outline of their silhouette, it's rough, man. It's so rough. And bears, as we will see, are not the only creature that falls prey to this, right? So bears in general, they're okay, right? Bears in 06, they're all right, I guess. They're kind of cute in a way. Let's see. I think maybe B for bear. But there's no denying that the remaster bear is complete ass. Let's zoom in even more here. All right. Going in alphanumeric order, let's go on to boars, which once again, with boars, we have a similar situation. Let's see. Am I utilizing my... Yeah, here we go. We're doing it correctly. Once again, boars sort of suffer from this. The further away you are from a boar in Oblivion Remastered, the better it's going to look. The head and snout area looks good, but this back here, it just becomes a mess. And like I said, it only looks worse and worse the less graphically capable your hardware is, whether it be a console or, God forbid, some PC that's like barely scratching at the minimum specs. It's only going to look more and more rough. Obviously, like, I think it looks... Hang on. Let's see here. Let me get red to make it pop a bit more so we can draw on this boar. Let's see here. Do I even remember where my pencil tool is? Because I don't normally use it. There we go. Here in the main center part of the boar, I think it looks good, right? It's really the perimeter of it, right? When you start to have the fur have to blend into the background environment, it starts to look rough. Let's check out the original, which once again is not that amazing, and it's tough to even like qualify anything with the more like realistic creatures in Oblivion, you know, because what are you gonna say? Like, yeah, it looks like a boar, or it doesn't look like a boar, right? There's not much you can say. This is also part of some of the shonky business with Oblivion, especially early game when you haven't like, you're not going up against more interesting creatures thanks to the like open world level scaling, right? And eventually, at a certain point, you're never probably going to see a boar ever again. Or at the very least, it's going to be a lot more uncommon. Normal boar, honestly, I think it looks worse than than the bear, because the boar doesn't even look kind of stupid cute, right? I don't even think it looks stupid cute. I think the head undeniably looks so much better. The head and snout area in the new one looks so much better. But man, this part, it's like mohawk, is so much more rough. And because of that, I think regular boar is a C tier creature. And the new one, the remaster boar, I think is D tier. I'm sorry. Like I had said, this is going to be a recurring theme. Some just look like messes of pubes, right? I think some of them are just like a damn mess. They look better the further you are from them, but when you get up close to them, which, hey, most people are probably going to be playing the damn game in first person, and then you walk up to loot it, you're gonna see some real horror, right? Which isn't to say that, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'll walk it back a little bit. I do think that, like, when it comes to environments, especially like man-made, like structures and architecture, but also the natural world as well, I think Oblivion Remastered looks absolutely fantastic. But this is undeniably one of its, in my opinion, one of its shortcomings is how a lot of the creatures and like characters look. I feel like there's something, you lose the appeal of original Oblivion, especially when it comes to NPCs, right? Where they have like the charming potato face thing going on. And it just clashes so much with the increased fidelity when they try to channel. They still try to have their cake and eat it too with Oblivion Remastered, where they try to have a lot of the NPCs still look kind of like potatoes, but really like HD, 4K potatoes. And it just doesn't work that well, right? Something feels dissonant with itself. Anyway, up next, if we're going alphanumeric, and why not, we've got our first Daedra, which are the two Clanfears, which both of which Clanfears appeared in Oblivion, or in Morrowind previously, and they are back once again. If you've only played Skyrim, you may be thinking, what the heck's a Clanfear? Well, they look kind of like little dinosaur dudes. And honestly, they look pretty similar to how they did in Morrowind. There's not much to say about them. They have more of a beak situation going on here, right? The beak is really prominent, looking a lot more bird-like. Which I guess is kind of fun. It's kind of fun. I hate fighting them. They're not fun to fight. They're one of the first creatures. I don't want to lean too much on like the mechanics of battling these things, but we'll have some consideration for that here. Obviously, it's all subjective down the all the way down, but fighting them, they are one of the first Daedra or first enemies at all that are particularly difficult because they have reflect damage inherently, and it's active at all times. So if you're dealing damage to them, you're going to be hurting yourself a little bit as well. And you need to have some sort of way, if you're playing on higher difficulties in particular, you need some sort of way to counteract that, whether it be a healing potion or a healing spell or whatever, right? Or just a big enough health pool and you account for it. It is a major consideration. Here they are in the remaster, which it's got to be said, my God, the remastered version looks amazing, I think. You see like this sort of scale, this chitin here on its like headdress. I don't know what you would call it. It's like sort of Triceratops head fans or whatever, right? It looks a whole lot more reptilian. The scales are a lot more like well-defined on its hands and stuff. I like that a lot. The beak blends a lot more, right? It blends a whole bunch more. The eyes are looking very reptilian as well. Whereas here in the original, they look very, they look kind of dumb. They look kind of silly, but it is kind of in a fun, cool way that they look silly, right? I do appreciate the way in which, you know, it's okay that they look kind of dumb and silly, because a lot of things in Oblivion 06 looked kind of dumb and silly. You know, it's sort of this impossible achievement wherein they managed to achieve this weird parody throughout the visual art style of that game. You know, it's one of the more unique and incredible things about it. And frankly, one of the more iconic things about it. Right? But that said, although I do think that this is just a straight up upgrade, I don't think the base of it is that wild. You know, I don't think the Clanfear itself is that remarkable or that amazing. I'll rank the Clanfear 25 pretty high in B, and maybe the Clanfear 06 lower in B. But otherwise, you know, it's nothing wild. It's nothing to write home about. It's just a Clanfear. Nothing too exceptional. Or one of the first Daedra that you'll probably encounter alongside Scamps, no? Maybe an Atronac. Anyway, sort of the opposite of that, we come upon Daedroths. Some of my favorite, simply because of my association with Gordon. Let's bring them up here to take a gander. Close out of these. And let's take a look at the original Daedroth. Which, bear in mind, quite the departure from how Daedroths would appear in Morrowind, wherein they were significantly more scrawny and sort of scrappy looking. In Oblivion, Daedroths are hulking. They still have this sort of alligator or crocodile aspect to them, but they look very powerful and hulking, right? In Oblivion, I guess maybe they're more similar to like a certain Spider-Man villain, right? Or a certain Batman villain even. Whereas in Morrowind, they're more reminiscent of those little dudes in Donkey Kong Country that you would jump on. Do you know what I'm talking about? The like little blue dudes who are like mostly a mouth, and you would jump on top of them and kill them that way. They were more reminiscent of that. Also, they have this huge, like, I don't know what this is called. This huge, like, gobbler that kind of wiggles underneath. In the original, the spikes are all nasty. They're just poking out all over the place. There's no, like, uniform direction. They are so gross looking. I have to imagine that there's a world in which they look a bit nicer depending on, like, the head position of the Daedroth, but it is some gnarly fucking business, right? It is gnarly as hell looking. Their eyes are shaped so weird. They're shaped like a little angry cartoon character. We're on some like has-been hotel type shit here with the eyes. It's nasty. It's wild. They're huge and hulking. Honestly, I kind of do enjoy them. But maybe part of that is my sort of reverence for my number one, Gordon, right? Maybe part of that, maybe I have a very, very biased idea of, or biased ranking for the Daedroth. And then we can look forward to the future where they still have this big old gobbler, right? They got the big old gobbler. But once again, a lot more things are well-defined. The spines on the top, the sort of Godzilla-esque spines, look a lot nicer. They're still somewhat chaotic and gnarly looking, but at least they're more aligned. They aren't just like sort of like jagged all over the damn place, right? Doesn't just look like shards of metal. The hands look a lot more well-defined, and the claws pop a lot better. Honestly, I think it's maybe the scales and stuff that do it, you know, because I feel like the Oblivion Remaster team does better with these hard surfaces. The fleshier you get, the more iffy, you know. I feel like the more iffy we are on, like, I don't know if I prefer this or not. But I do think the Daedroth is like a straight upgrade. I think they did a good job remastering the original look. Right, they kept very true to it. I don't mind losing out on the weird little eye because here it looks a lot more like reptilian in nature. It works very well. You got these little spikes on the shoulders, which I don't, yeah, this one here, the old version didn't have the shoulder spikes or whatever, right? Did not have these little tiny ones, but here it looks good. It looks all right to me, right? I enjoyed, I do think there's a bit more of a stark difference. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's harder to tell in this screenshot. But there's more of a stark difference with like the underbelly area, right? You can tell that there's a bit more like more of a soft underbelly relative to here, where it looks almost like the same, not exactly the same, but very similar to the rest of its scales, right? I think it's an improvement. I think the new Daedroth is an A rank, and the old one, I'm gonna rank it just under. I'm gonna give it a high B, but that's probably personal preference, right? Talking, right? But that's the first one where I think the remaster did a very, very good job. It substantially improves upon the original in a meaningful way. The Clanfear is a nice improvement, but it's not quite as remarkable, I think, as the Daedroth, right? Because the Daedroth did need some help. We saw those spines around the back. All right, we're once again leaving the realms of the sort of supernatural, and we are re-entering the more mundane world with deer. Let's see here. Let's close out these. There we go. Deer Original. Frankly, Deer Original is looking cute as hell. Deer Original is looking so cute and so fun. It has a shocking degree of fidelity to it. Like, what they were able to accomplish is remarkable. Why does the 06 deer look so good? Right? I think maybe it's because it's a like shorter haired animal. You know, like they got fur. Don't they? They have like a small, like slight bit of, do they have fur? Yeah, they have like a fuzz, right? They have like a fuzz fur to them, you know, kind of like a wiener dog or something, right? you know what I'm talking about? They got like a peach fuzz all over them, don't they? Yeah, they do. They do, right? I don't know. I think so. I think they do. And it looks good. I think all over it's fantastic. They have the little fun twitching ear animation, I believe, even in the original 06 release. And then here we go in the new one, and they don't look as cute. You know? Am I wrong about this? They don't look as cute. The fidelity has definitely gone up a notch. Right? They probably look better. Is it because of the eyes? Is it the eyeballs themselves? Because here they have like very darkened eyes, which might be more realistic, but it doesn't need to be because we're on a different planet, you know? It doesn't need to be. Honestly, I think I prefer the original one. Why does the original one look so cute? It may also just be the angle of it, making it look even more cute. But come on, look at the look at them. Look at them. Why does the original deer look so much cuter? Right? They're both kind of cute, but deer in the remaster looks a little bit more noble, while this one is kind of cute. It's kind of cute. All right. I'm going to give regular deer. I'll give it a low A. And then the other one, I'll give it a middle of the line, right? You know, what can you really do with these more realistic creatures and stuff? Speaking of which, let's move over to dogs. There we go. Let's close out of this. Dog 06. Not to be confused with wolves. Originally, I was thinking of making this just like wolves in totality, which we're already going to do it with wolves and timberwolves. But in Oblivion original, there are also dogs. People have pet dogs. There are a few quests and like rumors and scuttlebutt about dogs and people who own dogs. And they all look like this. And Skyrim sort of continues this tradition where perhaps on Nirn, it's true that every province, if it has dogs, all the dogs just look the same. That might just be a fact of Tamriel, of Nirn, right? Because every single dog here in Oblivion looks like this fucking dog. Same goes for in Skyrim. They all sort of have that. Is it like an Irish sheepdog? Is that what it is? They all look like Barbas. You know what I'm saying? They all look like Barbas in Skyrim. So although I would appreciate it if there were different looking dogs, if dogs do exist in Elder Scrolls 6, I'm open to the idea that just all of the dogs are going to look the same in Elder Scrolls 6, because maybe that's just how it is in Nirn, right? And you know how you get away with it too? Have Maik say it. Have Maik talk about it a little bit and lampshade it, and then suddenly people are like, yeah, that's cool actually, right? They need to be given permission to like it, you know, but not us, because we don't follow the rules. we see it and we're already like, you know what, it's cool. We do like it. However, another world is possible, and the remaster shows us that indeed different types of dogs are possible. And I just want to ask as well real quick, what the hell is going on here with this dog's eyeballs? What is going on? What's going on here? What happened? Is this some of the weird, like, eye tracking going on with the remaster and all of that? I don't know. Either way, sort of the default dog in Oblivion Remastered is this version here on the right, which is one of the few cases of the big pube explosion, I think, working, right? Because this dog has really thick fur, right? It's got a lot of fur there in its body, but I think it's working out well for it. It makes sense. It looks good, I think. Other animals, less so. I think the dog is the most successful version of it. Also of note, also something important with dogs in the remaster. Once again, I appreciate that there are just different looking dogs, even if sometimes they look a little weird. Sure, this is the default and the most common dog you'll see, but I do appreciate that there are other versions that you'll come across. I do like that quite a bit. And even more so, I appreciate by default, they just look happy, right? They just look happy by default. I wonder if they got some kind of like mandate from on high to say like, okay, when you're doing the remaster, here, look virtuous. I don't know how the pop culture is over there, but right here, dogs have been having a moment for a while now, right? And people love to see a cute dog in a game. So make sure these dogs look super cute. And I think they fucking did it. I think they fucking did it. They got them smiling. They're always like, they got their mouth open, their little paws together and stuff. It's cute as hell. Whereas here, the stoic, like, dingus of a dog from original Oblivion, they all look the same. They look extremely like wolves. There are differences, but they do look a whole lot like them. I think the remaster outdoes it, right? I think the remaster outdoes it. I'm going to wait more so the common dog here on the right, because it's the, like we had said, it's the one that appears by far the most in the game. But I do like it quite a bit. And I'm going to put the 06 dog here in the middle, right? It's an okay dog. You know, it's okay. All right, we're once again entering the realms of Oblivion with the Flame Atronach. Back in time, we've got sort of an advancement over the version of the Flame Atronach. We're seeing the first stage of the Gunnerification of the Flame Atronach, wherein the Flame Atronach in Morrowind did not look that sexy to most people, right? It was a very unconventionally attractive flame Atronach in Morrowind. And here in Oblivion, it's looking a little bit more sexy. It's got like the sexy chest armor going on. It's a little bit more defined, looking almost humanoid in nature with like a big, weird, freaky head and stuff. Right? It's got that going on. You got particle effects. They're super easy to see at night, especially if they're pouring out of like an Oblivion gate or something in the distance. They're very good and easy to spot. They're all right. You know, they're all right. But sort of showing off, I would say, some of the strengths of the remaster. They're pretty good at these harder surfaces and stuff. So they threw on a bit more, right? It's got more going on its head, and it looks more sinister, while at the same time also looking a little bit more sexy, I guess, right? With the chest piece area and everything. Crucially, I think, no, they have shoulders here. It's just a bit more defined, probably thanks to dialing back the particle effects and sort of like making them more so appear around, right, like the biceps, around like the neck, the like midriff, you know, the lower thigh, stuff like that, where there's exposed parts of the Atronach showing. The particle effect isn't just like exploding out from everywhere. I think it's looking all right. Now the hands also are a big one, wherein it's got these like super sharp nails, right? And the hands are looking like what's his name? Wilson from Don't Starve, where they're like completely, I don't know, like near solidified lava, you know? It looks very lava in nature, and it's like almost completely solidified into like this gauntlet of sorts, which you kind of get a bit of the implication of that here, but they look so very humanoid, right? Which, you know, already it looks fairly humanoid, right? It already looks quite humanoid. The new Flame Atronach, I think it's a success, right? I think it's quite good. You don't get the fiery head going up quite as much, you know, sort of emulating everyone's favorite elf haircut in Oblivion, where it's the dollop of cream. You have that on this Flame Atronach, but you don't really have it on the new one, right? A bit of a shame, but a small price to pay. I do think that this might be an improvement, you know? At the same time, I do wonder if we run the risk of this sort of like helmet and mask situation being too far removed from Oblivion's like aesthetic. Maybe it looks too unlike anything else in the game, but I feel like they're just barely skirting by, right? I feel like this is sort of at the precipice of, or at the threshold of what is and isn't okay, you know, and we're within the realms, we're just barely within the realm of like, okay, this still feels Oblivion-esque, you know? And for that, the original Flame Atronach, I think it's all right. I think it's all right. I think it's a B. I'm going to give it a middle-of-the-line B. And the new one, I think I'm going to give it an A. I think I'm going to give it an A. Okay, up next, we've got another Atronach, the Frost Atronach. Let's load them up. There we go. Cool. Yeah, cool, because they're frosty. Anyway, the Frost Atronach, as they appear in Oblivion, we're getting more into the realm of just looking like a big old chunk of ice, you know, which I really enjoy the look of them in Skyrim. I really, really enjoy the look of the Frost Atronach in Skyrim. And we haven't quite got there just yet, right? The issue is that they're super bright, similar to flame Atronach. The frost Atronach in the original Oblivion is super bright. Anytime you're in like a dark cave and there happen to be Daedra, in particular with like the Mages Guild quest arc, they pop so brightly against the darkness of any sort of interior dungeon. They're even popping very well out here, right, in this like rainy woodland area. It's a bit wild, but I get what they're going for, right? I understand what they're trying to do. I'm not a major fan of it, right? It's a little nasty. How do they do in the new one? He's got Hulk hands, and it's a lot more pokey. Honestly, I don't really like either of them. I don't like either of them. I like how inhuman it looks in Skyrim. You know, I like how inhuman they appear there. And honestly, in Morrowind, they look even better. They look good too, wherein they just look like people who are about ready to do like wrestling. They look like Mr. Freeze if he was wearing like a Speedo or like some tights or something, like getting ready to do some wrestling for real. It's really wild. If you're unfamiliar with the Frost Atronach and how they look in Morrowind, you owe it to yourself to look at them. But the issue here with Oblivion and both of these designs is that we're in this awkward middle stage where we haven't quite gone to this strange like I don't know, like looking like a living glacier as they do in Skyrim, which is cool in and of itself. They feel a lot more inhuman. And we're too far removed from like the humanity and the stupidity of the Morrowind version, which frankly would have fit very well in Oblivion. I just do not care for either of these Frost Atronachs. I don't like them at all. Yeah, I do not care for them. Are there folks who really enjoy them who like it's your number one go-to in Oblivion to run around with the Frost Atronach? Because it couldn't fucking be me, right? I don't even know of the two of them which would I rank higher. I guess thanks to more particle effects, I would go with the new one, but it's neck and neck. I really don't care for either of them. I don't like either of them. Okay. Up next, we have generic ghost, which if you're Dunmeri, this could be like your ancestor ghost. There's a few times in which you fight ghosts in the game. Let me close out these. There we go. They will show up sometimes inside of, as we can see here, in these crypts and stuff. They're a lot more like a haunted mansion ass looking spooky ghost guy relative to other entries, right? They literally got like the spooky, like sort of Hanna-Barbera-esque, like Scooby-Doo-esque, oh, I'm a spooky guy. They got this going on, right? Which I do appreciate that. I do like it. And I love, you know what? I actually love how difficult it is, especially when you're just walking around in the game world and you're not like here looking at a freeze frame. I like how non-specific the face is, you know? I like how it looks like you could tell that there's a face there, but you just can't quite make it out, right? There's something very ethereal about that and very, I don't know, something a little spooky about it, about the fact that you get the idea, it has the impression of a face, but you just can't ever quite make out the details. I think there's something super cool about that, right? I think that's neat. Now, if we go to the future, it's the complete fucking opposite, where there's a wealth of details, right? They don't actually have a lower body, right? This is all just like gaseous fumes where it floats, same as before. They're still sort of doing the little creepy maneuver, but this is not a ghost. They failed the assignment here. This is not a ghost. this is a zombie. This is partially a zombie, and you've just put a fucking filter over it. This does not look like a ghost to me. Right? I'm sorry, but the ghost in the remaster looks terrible because so much of it is screaming, I'm a zombie, right? It's like they made an extra model for a zombie, and they're like, oh shit, actually we should have made a ghost, right? And I think a lot of that is owed to the fact that there's just so much detailing. You can see the fucking ribs. You can see like what remains of the muscle, you know? You can see its fucking hair, its eye sockets and shit. You can see it's got like bones, right? Wherein the nose fell off, and you can see almost like a ghoul. It's got an area there, right? It's closer to a zombie. It's like a zombie died and became a ghost rather than this is just a ghost, right? It's not like a guy died and became a ghost. It's a zombie died and became a ghost, right? They fucked it up. It's wrong. It shouldn't look like this. This is a fucking ghost of a person, and this is the ghost of a zombie. Do you understand? All right. And because of that, I'm kind of liking, like, it's not amazing, but I am liking the more I thought about the face, the more I'm selling myself on it. It's not like an S rank or whatever, but I do like it quite a bit. However, man, this one sucks, right? Sure, it looks cool, but for a ghost? Are you kidding me? That's not a fucking ghost. Shut the hell up. That is not a ghost. What are you talking about? All right. Now, another sort of ethereal, spectral, ghostly enemy type, the Wraith, the Gloom Wraith in specific. Let's bring this up. So this is the Gloom Wraith as they originally appeared, right? Looking like the bad guy from Amnesia, The Dark Descent in some ways. You know what I'm talking about? But looking very ghost-like. Holding a dagger so you know he's serious, and he got the little like Lord of the Rings hat on too, right? Very much channeling some Saruman energy here. Very much channeling like, what if Saruman was a ghost? Right? I like the beard, sort of the sunken in and dark eye sockets and stuff with the little beady, almost glowing eyes. It's working a lot. Almost looking, it's giving Robert House from New Vegas. It's giving Robert House, right? It looks like Robert House died, and this is the ghost you get. Honestly, I fucking love it. I do like it quite a bit. It's very good. And I think a lot of it, what makes it work so well, is that maybe they saw, going back, right, for this, maybe they were like, okay, what if it was this guy, but he was poor? Right? What if it was this guy, but he wasn't Saruman, but instead was like a peasant? You know, he didn't have a cool cloak, he didn't have a cool hat, no cool beard, no weapon. What if that's him? Right? Imagine this dude, but naked. See, because he's got like a gnarled hand going on, right? Similar to the other. But it's gotta be said, the clothes kind of make the ghost, right? Wearing this cloak or robe or whatever the hell this is, these ghost clothes, it's really making you seem like a ghost, like a Gloom Wraith. I think it works out very well, right? I like it quite a bit. I think I like the Gloom Wraith, maybe like right there, maybe just under the cool dogs. All right, now let's look at future Gloom Wraith. Future Gloom Wraith, I don't like. There is something a bit more brawlic about this Gloom Wraith, right? To where he looks like a sort of enemy that like Monkey D. Luffy would be fighting. You know, he looks very... The Gloom Wraith in Oblivion Remastered looks very anime. Do you know what I'm saying? I think maybe it's the shape of the beard and the way it's sort of cinched around the like cheekbone and it kind of like burgeons out and it's got this situation going on. Right? I feel like, why does that give anime? You know? And I feel like, once again, it's the broader shoulders. This isn't like a spooky ghost. This is like a tough guy. You know? And Gloomwraiths are tough, but I want them to be giving me like Ghost, right? I want to think like this is a really strong ghost, because that's what it should be. And also, I don't like what they did with the crown. It's like the inverse of what they did with not the Gordon, the Daedroth spikes. They kind of gave it a little too much chaos, you know? Like if you just look at this, I'm thinking like, oh, who's the new character they put in Tekken, right? I'm like, oh, this is a new skin for somebody in Tekken. Something about it isn't hitting right. It seems too powerful. It doesn't seem like wispy enough. The wispiness factor is not there. I'm liking this part, though, with the long, like, tattered robes down here. What I really don't like as well is the definition afforded by, like, this huge rhombus, this huge, like, diamond in the middle. I don't like that. He's too blinged out. You know? I don't enjoy that at all. I'm sorry. The new one is not that good. It's not horrible, but it's not good. I think it's a C ranker. Okay. Up next, we got goblins. Let's load up goblins here for us to take a peek at in higher detail. There we are. And goblins, once again, are one where there's a lot of variants of goblins, but we're really only looking at a couple of them here, right? Because there are so many variants. We get the idea, right? We can sort of have an idea of what goblins are about. I absolutely love goblins in original Oblivion. They're so stupid and funny. They sort of scream like chimpanzees or something when you hit them. They got rid of that. They like dialed it down a whole lot with the remaster. They don't quite scream in the same exact way, unfortunately. They got these really nasty hands, right? The hands are looking wild as hell. And their faces, they are looking almost like primate-esque, you know? Or at the very least, they're looking like Homer Simpson. They got like a Simpsons character vibe going on. They're just kind of goofy. They're kind of silly little dudes. And I do like that in a goblin, right? I do appreciate that a lot. That they're kind of silly, maybe kind of dumb. And I feel like that works as well with how you see them portrayed in the world. Like there's no shortage of little bits of environmental storytelling. Like, what are these goblins getting up to? You know, these goblins were drinking booze or whatever, right? Stuff like that going all around. You know, mind you, they are also eating people, I think, or doing something to people to where they're killing like cauldrons. They have cauldrons full of skulls, right? That's a little messed up, but you don't think about it so much because look at him. What a funny little guy, right? what a funny little guy. However, in the remaster, which mind you, I believe this is a goblin shaman, I think, given the headdress. But goblins look a lot more pissed off and look a lot more sinister in the remaster. They don't look nearly as goofy and as funny. They have a lot more of a more serious tone about them. And frankly, I am not a fan. I'm not a fan of it. And once again, you see here on the shaman, they're really keen on doing this like feathery effect. It's like the same shit that is on all the fur everywhere. They love throwing that shit all over the place, and it just looks awful, I think. Right? I think it looks awful on most systems and most hardware, and they should not be doing it. Right? It is highlighting one of the weaker points of UE5, I think, right? We should be sticking to more hard surfaces and stuff. Because I think this looks rough as hell all over town, maybe even a bit down here, right? I think it's rough. But even ignoring that, I don't like how much more serious and like devious the goblins appear in the remaster. I don't enjoy it. They look really, really nice, but I wish they just gave them different expressions, right? I wish they gave them a bit more of a either a stupid or like curious or just like the expression of being a bit of a dingus. I prefer that, right? It works better with Oblivion, right? We're seeing the remaster tries to remove some of the dingus from original Oblivion, right? Original Oblivion was full of dinguses everywhere. Everywhere you look, every corner you turn, you will encounter some sort of a little dingus. And then Oblivion Remaster is like, well, this is actually serious as hell, right? And sometimes they're like, they pull back a little bit and they're like, well, we can have a little dingus here. We can be a little goofy still. We still have that. But it just don't hit the same, right? It just don't hit the same. But for this reason, I think goblins, good Lord, are goblins like an A ranker? They're pretty good. They're pretty good. I would give them a high A rank. And the new goblins, maybe I give them a low B, right? They still look good, but I just wish the expression was different. You know, I wish they had a different expression about them. Now we return once again to the more mundane with horses. There's not much, right? We can't really say too much about stuff that exists in the real world, I feel. We're looking at the paint horse, right? There's a few variations of horses. It looks like a horse, right? It's got a bit of a silly head, right? The eyes on Oblivion's horses in particular look really funny. But they only had so many polygons, you know, right? They were doing what they could back in the day. Of note, however, and we'll see this as we sort of swap forward into the future, the details on like the saddle and the reins are just not there, right? Like there should be some sort of like reins or whatever it's called connecting here and strung up along the horse's back or whatever, right? Along its neck. I'm not an equestrian type of dude. And there should be, what are they called? The little foot pedal units hanging, right? Those should be there too. But they are not. As part of the saddle, they're not there. This is a very like under-designed version, and probably because they had to, right? I can see a world in which maybe there was originally, right, like a proper bit of reins lining up around this horse, but they're like, shoot, we got to cut stuff back. We got too much going in on this game. We need to remove some stuff. Maybe they originally had more stuff hanging off of here, right? Some little like foot units for your boots and stuff. And they just had to cut them, right? They had to get rid of them to be like, okay, well, we're just going to take these things off the horses then, right? The horses are eating up too many polygons as it is, right? But in the future, not a concern. Here we see the saddle, right? It's properly got this little doohickey here for you to put your foot on. It's got straps underneath the horse's belly. It's got the reins connecting onto this piece right here. It looks good. It's just a straight up upgrade, right? It's solid. It's good. But at the end of the day, it's a horse, right? It's not, what can you say? It's just a horse, right? It's Oblivion. There's some banality to be had in Oblivion, right? It doesn't all feel exactly otherworldly at times. It's a good horse, but it is just a horse. For the other horse, I guess we'll just give it a lower B, I guess, right? I guess I'll rank it right there, right between the Flame Atronach and the bear, because it's okay. You know, it gets the job done. All right. We're getting into the realm of monsters. Imps are not Daedra. They are monsters. They are naturally occurring monsters in Cyrodiil. Let's load them up to take a closer look. This is the original imp. They have bigger wings than this, but I clipped in closer, or I zoomed in closer. That way we could get a look at their mean mug and some of their absurdly muscular bodies, right? The imps are absolutely ripped. They are built really fucking tough, except for the fact that they're really tiny little dudes. They're very, very small. What is very funny, though, is that they have, and you can't see it here in this, of course, but they have really wildly defined asses, right? And this is also true in the remaster. They decided to keep their asses. I think maybe the asses are more out of control for imps in the original, but they still do have like a significant and noticeable ass in the remaster, right? It's just more so in the original. But the imp, it's fun. It's all right. It's cool. It's, you know, it's an imp. It's what you would expect. They look almost Dunmerry in some ways, right? You would think that there might be some people talking about like how similar, you know, if you just look at this part, you'd be like, oh, that's a very like muscular Dunmer, right? That's a very tough guy sort of Dunmer. He's a bouncer, right? But they're not. They're something else entirely. Why? This is one of the downsides of Oblivion as well, wherein there's a lot of interesting and fantastical creatures that you'll sometimes encounter once you get through all of the more banal ones. And the game makes very little to go and talk about them. There's very little in the way of exposition about like imps, or another big one where there should be a load of exposition about them. There should even be like a side quest or two about them. But there's nothing about Minotaur, despite how important Minotaur would be to the Tamrielic Empire, to Cyrodiil, to Empress Alicia, right? But there's none of that. There's none of that in Oblivion. It's unfortunate. But hey, the imp is pretty neat. I like it a lot, especially because its ass is so hilariously out of control. In the remaster, like I said, the ass is still out of control. But what are they doing to its face? It looks like it looks like fucking Nosferatu, dude. It looks like fucking Nosferatu. It looks like a cranky old dude who's yelling at you at a bus stop, right? I don't know what else to say, but I do appreciate that this has like more of the energy of an imp. You know, if you told me this was an imp, I'd be like, yeah, of course this is an imp. Look at him. He's like a little freak. If you told me this was an imp without knowing how big it is, I'd be like, is it really? Is it really? This looks like a monster from Doom. This looks like an orc mixed with a Dunmer. But in truth, it's a little guy. It's a little guy. So the question is it good on the remaster for going with this aesthetic, which is more true to an imp? Or is this a betrayal to what came before? Is this a bit of a betrayal? They've strayed too far and made him a bit more of a nebbish dweeb compared to sort of like this muscle-bound monster man that came before, you know? I feel like it's more of a betrayal rather than sort of playing into the imp stereotype that you would expect. Because that's part of the fun, I would say, of the original imp design, is that they're ripped as hell. they're ripped as hell, but it's a little guy, you know? I like the original imp. I'm not too fond. Like, the new imp is okay, but I feel like it would have been better if the original imp looked more like it, you know? I feel like you gotta make it look more brawlic, you know? They took the wrong lessons here. They made the ghosts looking like tough as hell, ready to square up, and the imp should look that way, you know? The imp ought to be that way. And for that reason, I think basic imps might be S tier because the ass is so funny. Their ass is so funny, dude. I think they're our first S rank just simply because the ass crack on them is actually iconic, right? I think it's a low S, probably the lowest of the low S, because it's such a dumb reason. But anybody who has ever looked at an imp, and in particular an imp's ass in the original Oblivion, can tell you that it's so funny how they have a huge ass. The ass is so good and funny. It's part of the soul of Oblivion, and it's part of my soul too. The new one, it's okay. It's okay. It would be better if it were more informed by what came before, you know? Instead, it feels like a bit of a betrayal, like they're trying to course correct something that didn't need course correction. Anyway, we come to something else that is a lot more alien, another creature of the natural world, sort of, the land dreg, or billies, as they call them for whatever fucking reason. The land dreg in the original is fucking cool. It's so cool and fucking weird when you first encounter one, when you first get to that sort of sweet spot, because eventually you won't see them so much because you'll level out of that range. But there's a sweet spot where you start seeing a lot of land dregs roaming around, and eventually they start disappearing and get replaced by like Minotaur and shit like that. The remaster is a lot better about this, and I believe you see land drags all the way through, even at like the highest levels possible. But in the remaster, seeing a land drag, seeing how huge they are, is so wild. It's so cool. It's so unexpected. The way in which it clashes with the rest of the banality of the overworld, right? It's one of the first like weird looking things that isn't a Daedra that you'll probably see. One of the first truly freakish looking creatures. It's so cool. It feels like the Morrowind bleeding into Oblivion here with the land drag. And maybe thanks in part to the fact that Morrowind had like aquatic drag. You know, they had normal drag, not land drag. But still, land drag looking dope as hell. I absolutely love them. Even better, this is a bit more of a mechanical part of them, but in the original Oblivion, and they still do it a bit in the remaster, but man, in the original Oblivion, 9 out of 10 times if you cast a paralysis spell on them, they are going to still stand upright, but they're going to start jiggling and vibrating ridiculously, madly. Ridiculous to like an absurd degree. They just keep vibrating and like jiggling all over the place. Something to do with like the animation skeleton or the rigging and all of that is just super prone to them like beginning to jiggle completely out of control, like so fast that you'll see and you'll think like, God, is this about to crash my damn game? Because the Gamebryo engine can't even handle like what is going on with this creature jiggling all over the place. It's amazing. It's incredible. I think the old school land drag is easily an S rank. Easily. Right? Absolutely iconic. Now, the new one. The new land drag looks a lot less silly. Right? The old one looks kind of funny, right? Like it's still scary and intimidating and terrifying from afar because you see all of these like different limbs or appendages and stuff looking like the iron fucking spider. You still got that, but here the sharpness, it looks a lot more chitinous, a lot more of the crustacean aspect is coming in, right? You get like little barnacles that are a lot more visible, a lot more easy to tell that they're there. The little spikes on the shell, on the chitin. It's got like this chest piece more akin to like the rest of the dreg. It's very good, actually. It unfortunately doesn't jiggle as much, right? But I do actually really, really like the new land drag. And I think once again, this is sort of showing the hand, sort of this dev studio, Virtuos, who did the remaster, in that they're pretty good at like hard surfaces. When it comes to more fleshy stuff, sometimes maybe less so. Flesh and fur, sometimes they get lost in the weeds. But harder surfaces, environments, architecture, they tend to do really, really good stuff with. And of course, the land drag has a lot of hard surfaces onto it. right? I think it's quite good. Do I think it's an A rank? Is it the first A rank of the remaster? You know what? I think it is. It's a lower A rank. I don't think it has quite the charm of the original, but it's still really good, right? It's still quite good. I dislike that it tries to take itself too seriously, but it's still all right. Now, up next, we have the Lich, and there's also the Nether Lich associated with them, which is just like the same as the Lich, almost exactly the same, I believe, except for the noticeable difference of it's got like this big ghostly, what would you call it, filter over it. It's translucent, you know? It has like a ghost effect to it, where you can partly see through it, and it's got the glow. The Lich, I don't know, what's there to say about it? It doesn't look like something that I would describe as a Lich necessarily. I don't really like them that much, and they're kind of a pain in the butt to fight. Even the Nether Liches are a pain in the butt to fight. The outfit isn't terribly cool and inspired. They float around. They make this awful noise. They're kind of annoying, and once you get to a high enough level, it feels like they're one of like 3 enemies that you fight all the time, you know? They have this stuff with magic that makes them extra difficult to fight because they're always reflecting back onto you, or they have a chance to reflect and kill you instantly because you're using such high-powered magic on them. I just don't like the Lich, right? They're so uncool. I don't like them. And in the future, in the remaster, they're extremely faithful to it. They look a little bit more, I don't know, Tibetan monk, right? Something about the robes and the way it crosses over and folds and is cinched in the middle. Maybe the color of it too. It evokes a lot more like Tibetan monk for some reason than the original. Yeah, look, it's missing that. And instead, the original is like split here, right? Whereas this is split more so like a robe. Interesting. There's also this big unit right here on the shoulder. Nice difference there. But otherwise, they're remarkably similar to one another, right? It's a very, very faithful recreation. One of the weird things, though, is that they decide to balance out the hands, right? Because this is the hand that always will hold a staff. They put the little amulet on this wrist, whereas in the original, the amulet and the staff were on the same wrist. Fascinating, huh? Also notice the height at which it holds the staff. It holds it almost at the, like, head? Is that what you would refer to it as? It holds it almost at the top, whereas here, it holds it kind of in the middle. Interesting. But completely unremarkable, and I hate fighting them. I don't like them at all. I rank them... How much do I dislike them? I mean, I find them to be a bit of a bore, right? I don't like them. I guess the new one is kind of fun because it's got the Tibetan monk aspect to it, but otherwise, yeah, they're D ranks. Fuck them. I hate liches. They're not cool at all. You fight so many of them as you get higher level. You get so easily bored of them. Maybe it would be cooler if they had like a more important role, like, you know, they're really giving Dragon Priest, right? Imagine if they appeared as frequently as a Dragon Priest, then maybe I would think that they were cooler, right? But instead, they're everywhere. Them and the Nether Liches, they're all over the place at high levels. It's absurd. I hate them. Get them out. I don't think they're not fun to fight. They're not fun to look at. Hate Liches. All right. Up next, we got something that is kind of cool, the Minotaur, right? And unfortunately, as we had talked about earlier, the Minotaur suffers from a lack of exposition, as many things do in Oblivion, unfortunately. There should definitely be at least one side quest that gives you more exposition on Minotaur. Why are Minotaur here? How are they relevant to the lore? There should be at least one quest about it. Because Minotaur are inherently important to the area, right? What with Mora House, what with Empress Alessia and all of that. Even even in the Knights of the Nine, they didn't have really anything to say about Minotaur. There should have been more about Minotaur. Nonetheless, despite that, I won't hold it against them. They look so cool, right? I love fighting Minotaur. Minotaur are one of those enemies that do show up a whole lot as you get higher level. Them and the like ultimate Minotaur, which we're not including, we're kind of lumping them together. The ultimate Minotaur, whatever it's called, the Minotaur Prime, I forget what they're called. They do look a bit different. I think they tend to be a bit darker. Their horns are a bit more like standing up. They're a bit bigger. But otherwise, they look like a Minotaur, right? When it comes to the Minotaur, though, what I really appreciate about them is the way in which there are no cows in Oblivion. There are 0 cows that you can find in Oblivion, no? Am I wrong about this? I don't think cows exist in Cyrodiil that you can actually see. You will sometimes hear a cow. I think people will talk about cows. Lord knows in the remaster, you will probably see cow poop because they put poop everywhere in the remaster. But you will never see an actual cow. The closest you get is a Minotaur, which is fucking weird, right? What I love is how sleepy and stupid they look. This is a commonality with a lot of the original game, is that the aesthetic of original Oblivion is that a lot of things just kind of look stupid. In a cool way, they look so dumb and like aloof and out of it. And I love it. I love it so much. There's like, you look at this Minotaur's head and you're like, shh, there's not a single thought behind those eyes. And I love them for it. I love them for it. I fucking love it. Now we go to the future, right? Into 2025 with the remaster. And suddenly Minotaur are pissed. Suddenly Minotaur have the fury of 1,000 suns in their soul. They look so angry. They are so angry, right? Like here, sure, this Minotaur has its other fist balled up like it's ready to throw a punch. But look at that face. Come on. Come on. He's just doing that for fun, right? He's just doing that for fun. This Minotaur, however, is ready to fucking rock'em sock'em your whole shit up. They look very angry. They're very, very hairy, which there's a little bit of hair going on here. Like they have a bit of a neck beard. I think that's part of what makes them look so silly, is that they're really rocking the neck beard. They got some up here, but it's barely noticeable, especially with how huge Minotaur tend to be. They got like pubes. They got like a whole, they just have pubes. They just have pubes, dude. God, the Minotaur is so good in original Oblivion. The new one, I mean, I guess they do, but we're getting into more of a like satyr zone with how, right? We're getting into like normal Minotaurs. It's all furred up there, right? They sort of got like fur going on along here on the arms, more on the shoulders. They got all this, a little bit of hair. They're okay, right? They're okay. They're pretty good. It's a solid use of this shit that they fucking love, right? Mostly because they held back a bit, right? They didn't get too wild with the hair, the fur everywhere, right? It's a little dialed back. And maybe that part of that is thanks to the fact that it's on like their flesh is darker and the hair is dark, so you don't notice the discrepancies as much, you know? Maybe that's what makes it feel better. But regardless, I think the new one is an S rank. God, they're fucking iconic, right? When I think of Oblivion, if I'm not thinking of a Daedra, I'm thinking of a Minotaur. I think the Minotaur is S rank. They are so fucking funny. And then new Minotaur, it's pretty good. I'll give it a high A rank, right? I wish they weren't as angry, but everything in the remaster is pissed, right? They're so much more serious about everything in the remaster. It's maybe a little unfortunate. I love the levity of the original, but what can you do? Okay, up next, we're re-entering the realm of banality. We're returning to the mundane with fucking mountain lion. This is the new mountain lion. It looks good, right? Sure, it's a furry creature, but it's kind of got like a very what do you call it? Like thin coat, right? It's very smooth. It's not like the bear where it's just like a pube explosion all over. I think the mountain lion looks pretty dang good. I think it's solid. In the original, I think it looks pretty good too, right? I think they're good. Unfortunately, these are real creatures, so I'm not all that impressed, right? I don't care that much that they look cool because these things are real, right? Come on, I'm playing Elder Scrolls. I just got done playing Morrowind, or maybe I'm going back from Skyrim where there's all sorts of weird and wild looking shit. I want some more freaks. More freaks, please. I guess mountain lions are okay, right? They look all right. I'll give them right here, right between old dog and new goblin. Sure. What do you want? Right? They're probably one of the better looking natural creatures that you tend to fight. But unfortunately, that's exactly what they are. They're like a naturally occurring real world creature. It's not a thrill to me. Right? All right. Up next, we have the franchise staple and franchise favorite, the mud crab, which is 2 words in Oblivion. In other titles, sometimes it's 1 word. In Oblivion, I believe it is always 2 words. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, this is the original mud crab, which if you saw the mud crabs as they appear in Morrowind, you'd be like, yeah, of course they look like this here. They look like such a weird Dr. Octopus looking mess of like limbs, and the way in which they sort of rest on these talons and they use them to prop themselves up in such a way. I don't know how crabs work, but it looks so weird. And certainly in the original, it never occurred to me that these were their eyes. I don't ever think of those as their eyes because it never feels like they're looking at me. You know, it feels like they never look at me, right? I like this is their eyes somehow. This is their face. Not all of this, but this right here is the face. I don't think of these as the eyes, even though they are, because they're never looking. They're never looking anywhere. It's gotta be said, the Oblivion mud crab is like one of my least favorite mud crabs in all of Elder Scrolls. They don't look that fun. They almost look like a weird poop. They look like a weird poop, right? This looks like a weird poop. Let's look at the new one. How's the new one? Oh, right, yeah, I couldn't get a very good picture of the new mud crab. But they look like the smaller mud crab variant from Skyrim. They look like an actual real life mud crab, with the exception that the part that deals damage to you is a little bit more, I don't know, has a little bit more color to it. Your eyes are drawn to it a little bit more. It pops a bit more against the environment and against the rest of the crab. So I guess that's kind of fun, right? But I think I enjoy the stupidity of the original more. But that said, they're my least favorite mud crab. You know? They're my least favorite one. I'll give them a high C. And the new one, it's okay. I'll rank it above the Gloom Wraith. Right? Sure. There we go. Okay. Up next, another sort of monstrous creature. The ogre. Another creature which frankly should have had some exposition about it. This is the new ogre, and this is the old ogre. Honestly, a decently faithful recreation, and one in which I feel like they did a good job scaling it up and like remastering it. You know? They make it look a little bit more powerful, but still keep it looking kind of dumb. You know? And I appreciate that a lot. They also crucially fixed the thumbs here. The thumbs sort of bend in this, I don't know, disturbing sort of way. But here, the thumbs make a bit more sense and frankly seem almost more deadly, right? The thumbs seem almost more deadly. Uh, the fur on them, I only really ever noticed the hair or fur on the remaster ones. And after playing the remaster, I went back and I checked. I was like, oh yeah, I guess they did have hair on their arms and shoulders like that, right? I did not realize it. Either way, I think they struck a good balance here in making them look more fearsome, but still sort of maintaining the dingus mode and like naivete of the original, right? While like sort of adding to it. I generally appreciate the ogres, right? I generally do like the new ogres. And the old ones were fine too. The old ones were just fine as well. Yeah. I have no qualms with them. I would say though, like they're not particularly remarkable. Right? Like I'm not excited about fighting an ogre. I guess I would give them a B rank, you know? I put them right after bear, and they're right there together. They're kind of like arm in arm. You know? They're okay. All right, up next. Let's close out of all these real fast. But up next we have rats. Perhaps some of the most mundane of creatures. We got rats. And folks, I hate to tell you, but they fucked up rats in the Oblivion Remastered. I don't know what the fuck they thought they were doing with rats, because this is the original rat. Sure, it's got a bit of hair on top, and it looks, dare I say it, it looks kind of cute. It looks a little cute. It looks pissed. It looks a little angry at you, right? It's got like a little pissed off eye. But they're kind of cute, right? The new rat looks so fucked up. Why did they give it so much hair? Why did they make the rat so fucking hairy? Have they ever seen a like rat in their life? Is this what they think a rat looks like? Because this looks like a fucking abomination. I don't know what the fuck we were thinking when we were doing and making the rats this hairy. Why did they make them so hairy and didn't remember the mountain lion from before where I said like, yeah, it's got like sort of the wiener dog coat of fur on it. That's how a rat should be, no? Are there like extremely excessively hairy rats? God, I bet there are. But I don't want to see them. This thing is looking like a fucking Bloodborne boss or some shit, right? It shouldn't have this much hair, especially based on the source material. It looks foul. I hate it. I hate what they did to these rats. The original one, I quite liked. It's still just a rat, but it's nice. It's a pleasant rat. I would give it a higher B rank, the original rat. And the new one, dude, I fucking hate it. I would maybe, you know what? It's the lowest of the low. How did they fuck it up so bad? You know, I'm going to move the ghost even further down too, but I think the rat is worse than the new ghost, right? Because it's like, what were you doing? Why did you decide to make it so hairy? Why would you do that? All right. We're heading back to the Deadlands, back to Oblivion with the Scamp. Let's see here. This is the new Scamp, right? Looking kind of, it's kind of having a smile at you. You can see some more details and like warts on its flesh. Once again, it's got sort of the satyr sort of situation going on its legs, but that's nothing new for Scamps. I believe, yeah, the original has allusions to this. The wild thing is, like, I don't know, the faces, I don't know. The face is very different, but I do think they sort of honed in on the more devious nature of the Scamp. The Scamp should look like a little deviant guy, you know? It's a Scamp. I give a pass to the original version of the Scamp looking so like harsh and tough like this, because I don't know. It's the original. That's just how scamps look, right? Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't. But maybe it's more so because I'm informed by what came before in Morrowind. But I don't know. I enjoy these scamps. Perhaps some of the trouble with the scamps is that maybe you could make an argument that they look too close to Falmer, right? Just like take out the eyeballs and, you know, cover the legs and imagine that they're not furry. These guys may as well be Falmer. You know what I'm saying? Regardless, I don't know. They're all right. They're far from my favorite version of scamps, that being the Morrowind one, but they're okay, I guess. They're okay. I'll give them like I'll put them just above Mountain Lion. They're okay. And I do think the new one might be an improvement, but it's hard. Honestly, it's hard to say. I don't know. Okay. Well, here's another creature that suffered a similar fate, just not quite as bad as the rat. The sheep. With the sheep, they decided to give it in the original this sort of like crestfallen and frankly filthy look. Even worse is that it has this sort of like taint. Do you know what? Do you know what I'm talking about? The sheep has with its fur, with its wool, this sort of taint situation running all along it, as if it were like a big nutsack. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense to you? The sheep has that for whatever reason, which, you know, I'm sure they get that in real life. But there's plenty of sheep that you will see, like just, I don't know, look at a video or a picture of a sheep and they don't have to look like this. They don't need to have this down here. It's so gross. It's so gross. And then in the future, they thought and they saw this and they were just like, what if it was everywhere? What if it was the entire fucking animal? And the sheep in the new one just they look like you know what? We were talking about how banal some of the animals and creatures are and how normal everything is in Oblivion. You know what? Maybe the sheep do look like they're from a different fucking planet, because what the fuck is this, man? What the fuck is the new sheep? This shit looks fucking wild. Does their shit really grow in like that? I feel like it's a lot more compact than this. Maybe it does look like it, but it's giving goat more than it is sheep. I fucking hate it. I fucking hate the new sheep. I don't hate it as much as the rat, because the rat seems proud of how disgusting it is. But I would put it maybe right there behind the boar. And the old sheep, it's not great either. It's a low C rank, right? I like, speaking as someone, like, sheep are one of my favorite animals. I think they're extremely cute. I follow a few folks who like run sheep farms, or like I'll watch little clips and pictures of these sheep because I think they're so damn cute. I like to wear wool sweaters. I have jackets made of wool. I got a hat made of wool. I'm a fan of sheep. I think they're so cool. I think more people should wear wool. There's so many different kinds of wool. Merino wool is not scratchy hardly at all. Big fan of sheep. Oblivion is just like fucking hates sheep, I guess. Oblivion just fucking hates them. Why does it hate sheep so much? And in the remaster, I guess they just got a call from like Todd Howard or whoever the fuck saying like, oh yeah, by the way, here at BGS, we fucking hate sheep. Can you just make the sheep look so fucking bad? And they did. They succeeded. They look horrible in the remaster. Anyway, up next, we've got skeletons. This is one of the ones where there's a shitload of variants of skeletons. What can you say about them? It's a skeleton. You can't really get it wrong. Right? It's a skeleton. It's the most middle of the line. I suppose the one interesting thing though is like this skeleton, X marks the spot. right? They've, for whatever reason, that I've always remember them having this little cross here right on their inner butt. And do the new ones have that? I don't think they do. But regardless, I don't know. It's a skeleton. What are you gonna do about it? Right? There's not much else you can say about it. One of the cool things, this is less so about the skeleton itself, but fighting skeletons in Oblivion represented something super cool that was different from Morrowind, which was the physics engine with Gamebryo, wherein when you kill a skeleton, its bones go flying apart, and you can sort of shock the bones, or if you knock it with enough force or whatever, they kind of scatter around and fly around a bit. That's fun. That's cool. You get it in both versions, you know? And it's even better, I would say, in Skyrim. But make no mistake, it's very fun to kill a skeleton in Oblivion. It's significantly more fun than in Morrowind, where they just kind of like collapse like a normal corpse would. But it's so cool to have the bones go flying around. I would love to see in Elder Scrolls 6 skeletons make a return and just do more cool stuff with like blunt damage to a skeleton. I think that could be fun. I think it's cool, right? Speaking as someone who likes to use hammers. But yeah, what more can we say? It's they're the most middle of the line of the middle of the line. It's a skeleton, right? There's not much to be said. It's a fantasy video game. Of course there should be skeletons. Right? What can you do? All right. Up next, we got Slaughterfish, another franchise staple. The old school Slaughterfish. One of the, speaking of cool things with Gamebryo, jumping from Morrowind to Oblivion, is physics. Sometimes they get taken out of water and they're flopping around on the shore in a very fun way, and they flop pretty high. That is actually pretty cool to see them do it. It's a very fun and weird behavior, right? I don't know. Are there many other creatures in the entire game that have like a behavior like that, wherein they're aquatic, or even if they're non-aquatic and they enter the water, but any that behave so differently relative to how they do in the water? That's kind of amazing in and of itself if you think about it from that perspective, right? That's kind of incredible. I like their silly little beady eyes. I think that's fun. They look remarkably well detailed, right? On like their whole body and stuff. It's neat. The new one, it's like it, but maybe a bit less color, right? It's less colorful, a little bit more higher fidelity. The mouth still has a lot of the like sharp, nasty teeth. They're very, you know, they're slaughterfish, right? I like them. I would say low A rank, you know, mostly owed to them flopping out of water. That's so cool when you see that happen, when you see them like run ashore and they're just kind of stuck out there and they're flopping around. That is so cool. I actually really love that. What a weird and fun way to flex the new physics engine, no? Anyway, I rank the newer one lower because it's a bit less colorful, right? It's, you know, it's why'd they do it like that? All right, up next is we're re-entering the realms of Oblivion again with the titty spider. That's right, the spider Daedra. There we go. Who is just maybe the sexiest enemy that you fight in all of Oblivion? I don't know. Obviously, we're not including Knights of the Nine or the Shivering Isles, where there's definitely some sexy enemies there, right? Otherwise, this would go on for quite some time. But the spider Daedra, hey, looking pretty neat. I like how at the points of articulation for its legs, it's got the different bits of color, right? It goes from like this darker gray black into the more like, I don't know, lava-esque, like heated area, right? You know, they sort of have this recurring theme that looks a lot like a lot of the architecture in Oblivion, in the Deadlands specifically, where it's sort of this red on black. You know, it looks like hardening lava. It looks like obsidian forming, you know? It's very fun. I believe it's a throwback to some of the other Daedra that existed in like Daggerfall. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're a pain in the butt to deal with because they have that gnarly paralysis. They spawn a little tiny version of themselves, which is, I don't know. It's wild that the little tiny version is literally just a little tiny version of themselves. It doesn't look different whatsoever. That's kind of wild and funny. I do appreciate that. They're somewhat iconic. They're somewhat cool. You know, it wouldn't be Oblivion without them. I do enjoy them quite a bit. You know what? I'm going to say maybe they're an A rank. Maybe they're just right between Flame Atronach and Ghost. You know, they're all right with me. Whoop. And Gloomwraith. Well, now Flame Atronach and Ghost. Sure. Now, in the new version, they really dilute the color, right? Obviously, there's issues here with like lighting. You know, this being a time of day, we're subject to a lot more RTX and stuff here in the future. But there's no denying that you definitely get a lot more, it's a lot closer to grayscale. It's not quite as gray as what it shows here, but it is significantly less high contrast compared to the original, right? I actually don't really like it as much. They also went and decided to add more of the fucking pubes on everything, right? You got some spider pubes right here at some of the points of articulation. You know, I don't really care for that. I don't know. I don't like the new Spider Daedra quite as much. Right? I don't know if I like it as much. I feel like a lot of it has to do with the contrast and the way in which the old Spider Daedra, it feels like it's part of a matching set, right? It feels like it matches the Oblivion Gates. It's matching a lot of the other Daedra that appear within. It's matching a lot of the architecture that appears within the Deadlands. A lot of the like little booby traps and stuff. It matches the Daedric armor, right? This is their chitin, I assume, but it looks also like armor. It looks like Daedric armor in a way. It has sort of that same sort of visual aesthetic. And here we get a little too removed from it. You know, it looks a bit softer on the legs, and on the back, it's a little bit more gentle. You know, I don't know. I preferred the original. There was just something about it, right? There was something about it. I don't think the new one is quite as good. I think it's a bit of a downgrade. I don't hate it, but I do think it's a bit of a lower B. I think the new Spider Daedra just ain't quite as good. Okay, now we return to, well, I guess you could argue that this is like Kinnereth's realm, so we could be in like the realm of supernatural still, but through the purview of like Aedra. But nonetheless, we're looking at Spriggans, right? I don't know how long they've been a staple in Elder Scrolls, but Lord knows they've been in Morrowind thanks to Blood Moon. They were in Oblivion from launch, and they're in Skyrim from launch. Will they appear in Elder Scrolls 6? I would bet so. Right? I would bet so. Anyway, the Spriggans looking, honestly, a lot more well-defined over their, frankly, terrifying versions in Morrowind. They look very scary in Morrowind. They get more and more like brambly and gnarly in Skyrim, which I do really appreciate. This might be maybe their, well, yeah, it's a weird middle ground. They're very humanoid looking in Morrowind, and here they're starting to take on more of like this tree nature. I don't know. They're okay, I guess, right? They're very much giving like a wood nymph kind of vibe. They look kind of friendly. But the new one, especially the face, I don't really care for it. I don't know what they did with the face of the new one. But it looks so much more cartoony, right? Especially compared to a lot of the other faces and stuff. Why does it look so much more like so many of the other parts of Oblivion Remastered were trying to like make it seem a lot more grounded, and everything. Why are the Spriggans such an exception to the rule, right? They look so cartoonish in their face, which granted this one is like yelling at you and attacking, right? But even so, I guess it's to do with like the size of the eyes, the arching and all of that of the brow, which is sort of ever present. And maybe the new haircut. I don't know. Something about it seems so much more. It seems like the face of the new Spriggan seems almost like a doll. You know, it seems almost like a Bratz doll or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Whereas this does evoke more like a nymph, right? Like a woodland nymph, which, you know, maybe is a little generic fantasy, especially compared to like what you get in Skyrim or the weird freaky shit that was going on in Morrowind, right? It's a little bit more bog standard fantasy, but I understand where it's coming from. I get what it's informed by. Here, I don't like it. It's the most UE5 maybe. They got so UE5ified. Do you know what I'm talking about? I don't care for this at all. I really do not like it. And even the original I thought was just okay, right? Like, I guess I'll give the original Spriggan, I'll give it like higher C, right behind Mudcrab. But the new one, I think I'm putting it between Old Lich and New Ghost. I really don't like how they look. So it's all in the face. I don't know why they made the face look so much like a child's toy. Do you know what I'm talking about? It looks like a little toy that you would give to a kid. You know, I don't enjoy it whatsoever. Anyway, we come over to now the last of the three Atronachs, the Storm Atronach. We covered the others. Here we are. Now, the Storm Atronach, as it appears in Oblivion Remastered, is sort of a weird in-between of what came before, which this is the version before, and what you get in Skyrim, right? Where the electricity is a lot more blue. There's a lot more stuff hovering around on the perimeter. You still have some stuff hovering around on the original Storm Atronach, but it's a lot more close. It's closer. The important difference here is that with the Storm Atronach, you will sometimes fight these Storm Atronachs in the Deadlands, in Oblivion, when you go inside. What's interesting here is that their color scheme is adherent to the Deadlands, right? Here, they have like this darker orange that like borders on red in some spots, and this sort of like more gray and darkened area, you know? It almost seems fiery in a way, like lightning just struck some boulders or rocks or whatever and sent it flying around. Here, it's a lot more just like, oh, this is an elemental, you know? This seems more like, okay, this is something a wizard would conjure. This is something you were fighting in Oblivion. Honestly, I think both are good because you do fight a lot of these beyond just fighting them in Oblivion Gates or outside of Oblivion Gates, you know? And it works good out there. Whereas these work a lot better when you're fighting. These look and make a lot more sense if you're like going through an Oblivion Gate and you see them hanging out and like, yeah, they look like they belong. These look like they belong less. But having said that, so too do the Frost Atronachs. The Frost Atronachs do not look like they belong in Oblivion at all, in the Deadlands specifically. And they're sometimes all over the damn place in there, right? What can you do, right? So you may as well just make them look like this, right? Why not? Personally, I rank this higher. I do like this more. I like this a good amount more than this, right? I think it's better. I think the original is maybe a higher B. Put it between Rat and Daedroth. Well, I'll put it behind Daedroth. And then the new one, I think it's a low A, you know? Right? For those reasons, because in some ways it's conditional. You know, in some ways it's a bit conditional. Okay. up next, as we're sort of nearing the end of this, actually, let's see. We've got trolls. Let's load them up. Let me also close out of these too. Get rid of some of them. Oh, there we go. Let's see here. There we are. Trolls. The trolls in original Oblivion look otherworldly. They do look very otherworldly. They have, in some ways, a sort of primate aspect to them. They seem almost like gorillas in a way, but not quite, right? A lot of it has to do with the head. They look so alien there, and some to do with their little nasty fingers, right? Look at their little nasty fingers. They look like they got little shrimp on there. It's gross. But I do like it, and they do look kind of sad, right? They don't look like they're ready to kill. They just kind of look like a wild creature, which they technically are, right? They don't look specifically angry, but they do look like they could mess you up. And I do kind of like that about them. And there's a certain sadness to its look. What's scary though is how fast they are. My God, they're shockingly fast, right? Bless up as well to the note from the troll who lived by the bridge, who was like killing themselves or contemplating it. Definitely one of the more memorable bits from Oblivion. I enjoy this, right? I think this is all right. This is a decent take on a troll, right? I like it. I like the 3 eyes. I like the nostrils being close to it to sort of evoke that. And then we get into the future. And they really took some liberties with this, right? Obviously, it's meant to be hairy, right? Obviously, it's furry all over. But what happened to the green, right? They're not nearly as green anymore. And they've definitely taken on more of a gorilla aspect, you know? Something to do with their posture, the titties being out, their little weird beard, which they didn't have there, but now they got a bit of a beard. And this is a whole lot more exaggerated, this area here, which really evokes them being like gorilla-esque. And their third eye is a lot less prevalent. It's there, but it's so much less prevalent than here, right? Here they look positively alien. This definitely feels like you're on a different fucking planet. It's like some Legend of Zelda weirdo fucking creature that you have to fight. Here, it looks a little plain, right? The magic I feel is gone. They made it look very pissed. It looks very angry to me because it's like got a constant scowl. I don't enjoy it at all. I do think that the fur on it, they actually managed to pull it off here. You know, it does look kind of decent. But at the same time, I don't know. I really, really like the original a lot more. You know, I think they took the wrong idea that it was like they saw it and thought, oh, this is supposed to look kind of like a gorilla that you fight. And because, you know, they have a minotaur, right? They have things that look like spiders, stuff like that. There's stuff that looks like a dinosaur or a crocodile. And I think maybe in some ways it does look kind of like a primate, right? The original 06 troll. But I don't think it needs to look that much like it. Do you know what I'm saying? And in that sense, I would say it's like it's right behind, it's right between New Clanfear and New Deer, the original troll. And the new one, I just don't like it that much. I think I'm gonna put it I'm gonna put it between the new Mudcrab and the new Gloomwraith. Right? It shares problems with that new Gloomwraith, right? In that they took the wrong design nods. You know, they're going in a different direction from it, from what was, I felt, the original intent. or at least my way of interpreting their original intent. Okay. Up next, we have a real treat, the Will of the Wisp, or the Will o' the Wisp. Which, I don't know, what can you really say? Right? It's a lot more vertical in the original, I guess. And in the new one, it's a lot more spherical, you know? In the new one, there's some verticality to it. It doesn't spread out quite as wide. But in the new one, it kind of does. But there's not much to be said about it. They fucking hate fighting them. They make a god-awful noise all the time. I guess sometimes it's cool to see them in the distance. They're just awful. I don't like them at all. I just don't like them at all. I guess I'll give them, like, they do what they should, but I don't like what they do. I'll give them a high D rank. Fuck the Will o' the Wisp. Dude, I don't like it. It should have never been an enemy type. It should have just been like an ambient creature or something, you know? Or just even like something that you see that you can't even attack. Right? So maybe something along those lines. Anyway, let's head over and check out wolves. Something very plain and banal. This is the new wolf. This is the old wolf. What more is there to say? It looks like they managed to hold back on giving it like a fuckload of pubes, right? It's just got a bit of a mane. Here, the hair, the fur is like very decently controlled. They didn't go too fucking wild like they did with the rat. Why couldn't the rat have had shit like this? Right? Why couldn't the rat have been like that? Why did they pube the rat the fuck out? It's a wolf, you know? Fantasy video games, unfortunately, have you killing wolves and dogs, right? All the fucking time. Sorry if that's something that is a sore spot for you, but I don't know. What can you do? It sucks at times. I agree. Especially when they make a cute noise and you're killing the fuck out of them and like relentlessly wailing on them with hand-to-hand to try and level up your hand-to-hand, and the only thing around was a wolf. What can you do? It's a plain basic enemy. I would be down for getting rid of wolves in all fantasy role-playing games. I don't want to fight more wolves, right? I'm down for boars. I'm down for bears. But there's just the fucking wolf situation is just, it's too much, man. It's too much. And you know what? I don't think anyone gives a fuck. I think we're always going to fight them. At the very least in Skyrim, when you fight them, sometimes they go fucking flying in ridiculous ways after you execute them. At least there's that. I don't know. They look like how they should. I guess I'll put them right next to Ogre, right? It's a very plain enemy. It looks good, right? I think the new wolf is an improvement, but it's just a damn wolf, right? It's just a damn wolf. There we go. What more do you want? Okay. Now, up next, we have got the last of our ghosts. That's right, the Wraith. Very, very similar to the Gloom Wraith, with the notable exception, right? See, the Gloom Wraith, this is just like a less advanced version. But the new one, in the remaster, looks really stupid. It has this sort of greenish sheen to it, which, in my experience, just as it has here in this screenshot of a Wraith in the remaster, it has this tendency to have its visuals bug out a bit and look like a fucking hologram. It looks like a fucking hologram. You can see the difference here in a bit of the background, or even better, feast your eyes upon this part here, the like ephemeral, like ethereal ectoplasm dripping off of it, where it's like connected to the ground like a ghost would be, and compare it to like the rest of this, where it looks like a fucking hologram, right? It looks like a fucking space future hologram come back to kill you, right? It's like you're looking at some fucking Matrix shit. I don't know why this was so commonly like a weird visual artifact, but so many times I would see people get this, and so many of the pictures that I saw of people taken of these new rays in the 2025 version, they look this way. It was very funny, and for that, I don't think I can give it a D rank, but it does look bad. It does look bad, and it's so reliable with how often it would happen, right? I think I gotta give it a low C rank. And then the regular Wraith, I mean, it looks like a Wraith. It's not as cool as the other one. I guess it's a lower B, right? I'll put it right next to the Mountain Lion, right? It's not as fun as the one that has the hat and the beard, right? It's okay. It's okay. It does make me wonder, seeing it here in writing, that the original launch of the game was in 2006 and the remaster in 25. It does make me wonder if they sped along the remaster and tried to make it get launched earlier before Virtuos was done with it. You know, like they wanted to originally release it 20 years specifically after the fact. Instead, it was 19 years, right? Isn't that odd? Maybe they wanted to get Oblivion remastered out the door so that way they could be working on Fallout 3 remastered. Maybe that's it. Because it's so odd. If you're going to have it go on for that long, and clearly it needed some patches and stuff, and some would say it still does. But why wouldn't you just have it come out on the 20-year anniversary of Oblivion rather than the 19-year anniversary? You know? That doesn't make any sense to me now that I think about it. Anyway, we're on our last couples, our last two pairings. Up next, we have our last of the Daedra and our most powerful, the Westerlies, the oily men, who in the remaster look substantially less oily, right? But Lord knows in the original, they did look very oily. And they are meant to look mean and fearsome as hell because they're tough as hell. Their little, like, skirt, their kilt, or whatever you want to call it, is a lot more substantial in the new one, right? It's a lot more armored up, but maybe that's for the best because it makes them look a bit more threatening because it's bigger. Their silhouette is bigger. It looks like they got a bit more armor, right? Whereas here it's like, I'm fighting a naked guy, right? I'm fighting someone who is naked. They definitely look like they're a bit more tough and terrifying to fight in the new one, right? I'll give them that. In the original, they're kind of funny, right? For as tough as they are, they look kind of funny. Even in the new one, I don't know. I don't take them that serious. For whatever reason, I still think of Dremora as being like more fearsome. And in some ways they are, right? In some ways they are. What can you say? Which, by the way, Oblivion considers Dremora as NPCs, which, fair enough. I mean, anyway, the look of Dremora is mostly us. If we did have Dremora here, if they were technically creatures in Oblivion, we'd just be talking about Daedric armor, right? That would be the armor ranking video. But yeah, the Westerlies, they're okay. They're nothing special. They're just like a humanoid that's a little bit more bestial in nature, right? They're not that... Honestly, they're a bit of a disappointment for like an N-tier Daedric enemy, I would say. It's just a shirtless man. Right? The Spider Daedra was so much more fun and inspired. I want to fight something that's further removed from looking like a human, right? But instead, we get one of the more human-looking enemy types, right? The Westerlies I found to be disappointing in both the remaster and the original. And for that, I guess I'll give the original a C, and then the remaster like a little bit above it. Well, I'll rank it higher than the Pube Bear. Actually, I'll bring down the Pube Bear a bit more. There we go. Put it behind the Troll. Pube Bear is no good. All right. Finally, our last one in the Z's. There's a lot of different zombies in the game, but we're keeping it a little bit concise. We're consolidating things. Here's the zombie from '06, right? And there were other variants. There were headless zombies. There was one like missing an arm. Kind of neat. Kind of nasty as well, with how pieced together they still are, right? There's a lot more. There were bone walkers in Morrowind, which had like this stretched flesh over like bone and all of that. It was nasty. There was like some gore going on, but this is very like rotting. You know, there's a lot of rot, which I guess plays in pretty well to themes of necromancy. It feels like a more necromancy focused type of zombie, which is good for Oblivion because for the Mages Guild, right, you get a lot of involvement with necromancy. They're pretty neat. They're pretty fun. It's a whole ass zombie in a fantasy game. And then in the remaster, holy shit, why do they look so good? Why do the zombies in the remaster look astoundingly good? It might be one of the better looking anythings that they've remastered, right? Just look at this one's like tongue sticking out at you. The remaster zombies, why do they have so much work put into them? Right? It really gives me a lot of hope for like how feral ghouls and stuff will look in Fallout 3 remastered, you know? But man, it looks good. You can see a bit of the pubes coming in here, right? Thankfully, they stayed their hand. You don't see too much, and the focal point is really the rest of this, which is just gnarly as fuck. Yeah, the remaster zombie is so good. Why is it so good? How come it feels like it got so much more work done to it compared to others, right? I would say it's a high A rank, right? And the original, it's a B rank. It's okay. I would say I'd put it right underneath the Flame Atronac. There we go. Yeah. Why is the new zombie so disgusting? It looks like it's a zombie from an actual zombie game where that's the main focus is you fighting zombies, you know? Maybe it is. Maybe it's like a reused asset that they tuned around a bit. Who can say? All right. But yeah, this is our list here of the core game and both core games from 06 and 25. Right, the Minotaur ended up being our most iconic and favorite of them all. And true enough, honestly, when I think of Oblivion, I'd be thinking about those Minotaurs. Shockingly, a Daedra did not make it to the top for me. Right? Shockingly. You know? Like I like a spider Daedra, but there's just something about roaming around. I guess because the reason why I lack that association is because eventually you have significantly less Oblivion gates, right? I'm keen on playing these games for a long amount of time, and eventually you don't run into Daedra as often because you close shut the marble jaws of Oblivion, right? You close them, right? Thus, you don't encounter them nearly as often, right? Maybe the Landreg occupying S rank twice is also owed to me being a Morrowind dork, right? That might be some Morrowind love bleeding through there. I could see that being the case. Obviously, it's, you know, subjective all the way down. I think we made the right call having the bottom two be, or even the bottom three be, right? These are the three worst of all. The Rat, the new remaster Rat, remaster Ghost, and remaster Spriggan. They're just absolutely horrible, right? They're absolutely horrible. They're some of the worst of the worst. Is there what is original that's in D rank? Original Lich and original Will-o'-the-Wisp. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. There's just our B rank is very heavy because there's just a lot of normal, either generic fantasy like an ogre, like a skeleton, or just generic creatures from our real world, like a wolf or a bear, right? There's just stuff like that that ends up occupying the B rank because there's just nothing too remarkable about it. You know, there's nothing too wild or remarkable about it. All right. That ought to do it for this one. As I had mentioned at the top, feel free to submit requests for your own. We had just this one is sort of in connection with us ranking all of the little weird freaks inside of Morrowind, of which there are significantly more weird freaks. If you're concerned about the normalcy, how normal a lot of these creatures are in Oblivion, well, you should look at some of the ones in Morrowind. I would even argue look at some of the ones in Skyrim. I think things get a little bit more weird in Skyrim too. Oblivion definitely feels very normal, right? Anyway, that ought to do it for this one. Feel free to submit requests for rankings, questions for other IRL videos. Use a question mark if you want. It'll really help me out. Until next time, please take care of each other.